Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Now, many of us have ideas for books. Reading is back. I'm reading more, whether it's on screen or I actually like old school holding a book. I'm going to admit it. More and more people are back into it and thinking, I could do this. I think I have an idea. Why not move forward with it? We have a unique look at that today through the eyes of a publisher and somebody who has published a fictional book, a very unique one, which includes an erotic love story, things that have gone on in the late 1800s, and so much more. Let's start with the publisher. From NFV Publishing, Mark Pogodzinski is back with us. How are you doing today?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Very well, very well. And thank you for the people that you bring on board here. It's so interesting. Ideas for books that turn into, the finished product, from fiction to historical fiction to factual books. Who do we have today?
Today we have Miss Sara Puente, who is the author of The Vampire Undertaker. As evidenced by the title, it has to do with vampires. And the gothic horror genre is still alive and well. Forgive the pun, vampires don't die. And since, Bram Stoker's Dracula all the way up to Sarah's book, the concept of the vampire is engaging. It goes into some of our deepest desires as people and our deepest dreads. The idea that we could live forever, but there's a price to pay. And with Sarah's book, you have the added incentive of a love story. What are you willing to do for that person that you love, which is one of the great questions of all literature.
Sara, welcome. How you doing?
I'm good, dear. Thank you.
Good to have you here. This is a very unique book in that, there's been books about vampires and all of that. This one with the love story makes it unique. Can we get just a snapshot of the journey of the book? What's it about?
The journey. Well, the book itself is it's in 1874 in London, and it's very, very Victorian, and it's about a vampire undertaker who, ends up being the love interest of a young woman. And the book, I got to admit, the book was very much a homage to Oscar Wilde's plays. And I took what I loved in those, and I took my love and obsession with Gothic literature, and I combined it together. I kind of felt like it was it's kind of like a cookie recipe. You take all these different ingredients from all this literature that you love and that you study. And I was an English literature major for a really long time, like 10 years plus. I've devoted myself to studying literature, especially the Gothic and the Victorian era. I also have my associate's degree. But I really wanted to make something that was a pastiche, something that was Wilde and Poe and Dickens and the Brontes, everything in one, and Stoker and Mary Shelley. It's a lot.
Well, where does that come from? Your affinity for the Gothic, Victorian era. What feels good for you about that?
What feels good for me about that is that growing up, I had a mom who introduced me to Alastair Sim's A Christmas Carol, which is a really old black and white film version of A Christmas Carol. And it is super Victorian. I mean, historically accurate, gorgeously done. And from then on, when I was growing up, I think I was in the 4th grade, and I was obsessed with Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, which are themselves Gothic and Dickens combined, and I grew up obsessing over those. And they're children's books that are of the Gothic mode, the old Gothic. So think Castle of Otranto. And from then on, I just kept going. All these years, I've just loved the Gothic. My mom has always watched things like The Munsters and The Addams Family, and I have always loved these things. And so when I was in college years and years ago, it struck me as uncanny that I love these things so much. And I would always talk to my professors in my literature courses and writing courses who I was close with, and they understood what I loved. And I felt it was really frustrating. I felt like I was the only one who cared about the genre. It's not true, but I felt that way. and it really hurt. And there was no Gothic Lit course there, even though there was a professor who specialized in it. She was close with me, and I talked to her about it. But it was kind of me talking about what I loved passionately, and my professors understood, but everybody else didn't really. It hurt, and I've also had a big obsession with Anne Rice, which the cover of my book is definitely a bit of a nudge to her first book. And the Vampire Chronicles mean a lot to me. But so yeah, this book, also Gail Carriger's Soulless. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. Super Victorian. A lot of fun.
I love that time period. I've said it before. I don't know what it is. I think I do know. I probably lived in that time in another life. All right.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. I've done past life regressions, and there were some indications of that. But I could look at from right at the beginning of photography, 1860s, right around there. I could stare all day at black and white photographs of clothing that people were wearing, and I look at it in awe of like, how did they do that? They didn't have the machines we have today, but it looks exactly like our clothing. How the hell did they pull that off? And then as time went on, and also a much simpler way of life. They had their challenges as well. But I've watched, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the TV show, Yellowstone in 1883. I think that's, I saw that series, but it takes place obviously in that time. I don't know what it is, but there's something about that time, that Victorian era. Walk us through the book, where it's a romance as well, which is interesting. We're talking vampires and romance, but the woman in the book has a romance with the vampire Undertaker, correct?
Yeah.
Tell us more about that story.
It was me being a little naughty. I don't dislike her books, but a lot of people just love Jane Austen. Jane Austen's brilliant. She really is. Also my book took inspiration from Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which was written by Susanna Clarke, and Aaron Morgenstern's The Night Circus. Tons of books went into this little smaller book. But the thing is, I knew that I was very much thinking about Dickens and Poe, and not just Wilde. And I was thinking about how, and I'm going to be honest, it's always the man with money. It's always the man with money. You think of Mr. Darcy, and I was kind of tired of that. And I thought, well, maybe there would be a man that would have money, but it wouldn't be in the way that you would think. He's an undertaker and he's a vampire. He's lived a really long time. And I gotta admit, I was a little bit influenced by Oliver Twist, especially when it comes to, Dickens had a thing with undertakers. Usually they are minor characters, and I didn't want that anymore. I wanted something just I don't know. I got kind of sick of the typical polite gentleman as the love interest, People love Twilight. Twilight is just fine, but I wanted something different.
It's interesting. It could have been a romance with a vampire, but this is a vampire who takes out other vampires. Right?
Well, he actually, no, he takes out a doctor. There's a doctor and a scientist who end up getting taken out. I don't believe they're vampires. The only vampires in the story, without spoiling it, are some of them. If you read the book, you'll know. I actually was careful because in previous ideas for the book, I had a ton of other characters be vampires, but I really didn't want that. Because it seems to me that a lot of vampire books nowadays are always about all the vampires all the time, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a fun idea. Maybe one day I can do something with that. But for me, it's all about, there's one vampire who's kind of sick of being manipulated, to be honest. And as an undertaker, he's respected in Westminster, in London, but he's not, an aristocrat, really. So that was something, again, that I wanted to say, look, there's an upper class lady who falls in love with a man who he's got money, but he's not really an aristocrat. He's respected. he's an undertaker, and look at that, he works. But he's not. No, he's not Mr. Darcy, and
not 50 Shades. Not 50 Shades of Grey.
No, things in the book, and that's about it. Or maybe I hint at things through wordplay. But yeah, no.
So this is your first book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Walk us through that process. So here you are, you're writing a book, new territory. Did you jump ahead and write a chapter, 5 chapters in, and then go back and then forward? Did you do it in sequential order? Tell us about that, because I think it's interesting coming from somebody who is doing this for the first time.
I love outlining. Okay. I have an obsession with outlining and perfecting the outline the best I can unless I really have to change it at some point. Because there's so many writers, and I'm not blaming or judging anybody, but I have, a lot of people are just like, oh, you can just write. And it's like, yeah, you can, but you're probably going to get stuck. I've learned being an English major all those years, being in, my associate's degree. My English major wasn't completed due to financial reasons, but a lot of years I've studied English literature. So basically, writing essays all those years, if I've learned anything, it's that you have to outline to know where you're going. Not everybody has to, but for me, it's easiest when I can look back to see where I am going on that road.
I hear you loud and clear. And I'm in a men's group, and we do a lot of leadership, community service support, and all of that. And we do something called a CPR for everything. And you're going to have a meeting. We do a CPR. You're going to have an important discussion with your kid. CPR. CPR stands for context, purpose, results, i.e., it's an outline. Essentially, it's an outline to know where you're going to go, what's your expectations. It's the same exact thing. And it's interesting once you get in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to do a CPR. Here we go again. Boring. Once you get in the habit of doing it, you're more plugged into it. You have, and you manage your expectations. And I got to think it's the same thing when you're writing a book. You have, I'm sure for chapter 4, you had certain expectations, certain direction you wanted to go in, points you wanted to hit, emotion you wanted to invoke. What was your biggest challenge, Sarah, in writing this book?
It wasn't historical accuracy, because I love research. I can tell you that. I think it was making sure that every plot point I wanted hit home with the characters. If there's anything I've learned writing all these years, characters are the ones that make the story. The characters are the reason you are writing the book. You can say it's a story, that it's the story. Yeah, sure, it is the story. It's a love story. Great. That's wonderful. That is what it's about. But it is the characters. And I told Mark when I met him at the writers' conference, when I brought my manuscript to him, there would be no story if there was no Edgar, the Undertaker character. I fell in love with him. For years, I remember having this Victorian Undertaker, all dressed in black, with a crepe morning band on his hat, and I didn't know he was a vampire. I didn't know his name. I did know he was really lonely and really unhappy. And I thought, what if I could fix that? And so eventually I kept writing, and I found him.
To you, he was real, or is?
Oh, he is extremely real. He is extremely real, yes. And he's based off of a lot of things. I have so much influence from my book. In particular, my book is. Have you seen? I mean, I'm a big Tim Burton fan. Have you seen Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd? I hope so.
A long time ago. Yeah.
That's something that's very special to me. It's just beautifully done.
Everything he does is so.
It's fun.
But I'm intrigued here. I'm intrigued where a lot of times people will write books and the characters, or at least the main character, it's them. It's pieces of them that they infused in the book. This is a little bit different in that to you, Edgar is real. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's, it's actually cool that you perceive it that way, because that probably changed the way that you wrote. Mark, what are your thoughts on that? New territory for me here.
I think as you see Sarah's passion for her writing and her background, trying to incorporate all these things that, again, as English majors that we read over the years and that have met profound influence on us. And then the character starts taking shape, and she's described him physically. Didn't know what he was, didn't know what he would do, but I knew him. And I just needed a place to put him. And eventually she hits upon the vampire, which, again, the Gothic romance, that the Victorian, it starts to hit everything. And then things start to fall into place. And as Sarah said, she likes to outline and you could see the process. But I think what sets her book apart is, as she mentioned, the profound influences that she's taking in and kind of filtering for the reader. Most readers probably will not see all the influences that she has mentioned, like Oscar Wilde, in particular.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oscar Wilde, probably not as popular as he should be in this time frame where we live. But for English majors, he was an essential person. You read him, you did the bio of him, you understood like the sadness of his life, of what he went through. And even if you know that, her book becomes more important. And so when she talks about living characters, you can go to those writers that she mentioned and see what they wrote when they were writing about their own writing. Those characters are real. They live and breathe in our heads. We see them out in the real world. We think to ourselves, how would they interact in this situation? And eventually, ideally, we can craft a world for them to live in. And I think that's one of the great things that Sarah does with her book.
Sarah, Edgar,
Thank you, Mark.
is that somebody you know? Like
No.
somebody? No?
No.
Or pieces of that person?
It's not necessarily to say that it's somebody. It's not that I know him as I know him in my mind.
Okay.
I know him in that he is very much a part of my soul, as I know he is mine. I think that Emily Bronte couldn't have said that. She was the one who put that into words in her own way. And I think that for every great love story, there's something. I'm going to be honest. When I entitled the last chapter of my book as An Ideal Husband, it was a homage to Wilde's play, but it was also because I created the husband that I wanted.
Okay, so I get manifestation. Many believe in it. What you think becomes your reality. Has he shown up yet?
Perhaps one day. I'm pretty sure he will. Yes.
I kind of don't doubt it, really. I've manifested things, they've shown up, and talk about manifesting it. I mean, they say you're supposed to believe it as it's here and even write about it. It doesn't get any better than this in writing a book.
And the Lord definitely led me to write. He led me to write this book. He knew what was in my heart and what I wanted. And I have no doubt that one day I will meet the love of my life. I really do believe it with all my heart. When I was writing this book, actually, the play that I was most influenced by at the time, all of Oscar Wilde's, everything he wrote is beautifully done. But Lady Windermere's Fan is definitely kind of the influence there a little bit. And also, forgive me for saying this. I hope I'm not doing anything bad here. I will reveal a little about my secret. I was very much influenced. Now, when I mentioned Dickens writing Oliver Twist, Mr. Sowerberry, if you remember Mr. Sowerberry, I felt so bad for that character. He's a sweet man. He's got a dark sense of humor. He's older. He's tired. He takes in Oliver. He actually cares about Oliver. His wife is unfortunately not great. And that hurt me. I thought, oh man, Dickens wrote his wife as this nasty lady. What can I do to change that? That's also something that hit me when I was trying to come up with my book. How can I make a different character, like to take influence from Dickens, but make it mine? You know what I mean?
What's your advice for anybody contemplating? They have ideas. They have maybe an affinity for a time period. Maybe it's goth, whatever it is. What's your advice for somebody even pondering writing a book?
If there is something that you're really passionate about, no matter what it is, and Anne Rice has said this too in her own words, then you need to keep going with it and you need to write it. And one day, hopefully, and with the Lord's help, you will get it onto paper and you will get it published. You will make it happen because Lord knows that the deepest desires of our hearts, are they're why we're here. They're why we're here on this earth. And writing this book, yes, in my book, it's dark, it's macabre, it's morbid. Yes, I know all that, The point wasn't to write something that would be horrifying or scary, even though it's gothic. The point was to write something that was me, something that I felt maybe others would like or read, and they'd think, oh, this reminds me of this, or this reminds me of that, or wait, where do I know this from? And if there's any advice I can give to any writer, it's don't give up. Don't give up. It's hard. It's hard when you're financially challenged. It's hard when you feel like, oh no, my family and I don't have the means, or I don't even, what? For a long time, I didn't even have a laptop or internet or Microsoft Word, and that drove me nuts. I remember writing books. I don't even have them anymore. Old draft of books on paper, and then they'd get ruined, or I hated them. I throw them away. And then finally, I was able to work, and finally, the Lord helped me get a job, and I started to type, and I got my book done. And he led me to the Writers' Conference in some work. I
agree and completely relate to what you just said. And where there's a will, there's a way. And I've been doing what I've been doing since I was a kid. Like literally, I was still in high school. I got my first job doing what I'm doing now. A lot of years ago. I didn't have any money. I didn't have, I couldn't mix music. I didn't have nothing. A single mom. I taught myself electronics. I started building stuff. And through building that, equipment, mixer, stealing my sister's turntable, so I had two, I made tapes. That's how I got a job, because I wanted to do it. So it's not like what you're saying is you have the passion. It's inside of you. You feel that fire in your heart. Don't stop. Just keep going. You'll figure it out. It'll happen. Just can't stop. Wow.
And there are days, just for any other writer out there, and I think this also makes me think of Edgar Allan Poe. There are times when you're hurt emotionally or physically or mentally, and you just feel like maybe you can't keep going. And when you're writing the Gothic, sometimes that's not always the happiest thing to write. But if anything, I've learned that you just got to keep going. And if there's days where you just do not feel like it, don't push it. I don't even push it anymore. I can't. I feel so tired. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. One day you're going to go at it again, because that's what you love. It might not be perfect, but and also something else. And I mention her a lot because she really is so dear to me. Anne Rice also said to keep everything you write. Over time, I have learned to follow her advice. I have done stupid things. I have thrown away things I probably shouldn't have. So.
You know what? There's truth in that, because you wrote it for a reason. It came out of you. Yeah. So, why dump it? Great talk today. The book, The Vampire Undertaker, Sara Puente. You can find it, I'm sure, on Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm. It's on Amazon. Also, I'm having an upcoming first book signing at the Good Neighbor Bookstore in Lakewood, New York. If anybody wants to come and join me, I don't have a ton of copies on hand, but you are more than welcome to come and take an interest in my book, in the books at the shop. Talk to me about it. Talk to me about writing. I am more than happy to meet anybody who's willing to come.
Very cool. NFEpublishing.com. You're thinking about writing a book, just like Sara. Reach out to Mark. Any other things we should hit upon here today, Mark?
No, I think Sara basically says what every writer should feel. It's not always easy. It's not always successful, but it's part of you. It's something you have to do, and you can't stop doing it.
I'm forever going to remember, don't throw out anything you write. It's so much truth in that.
Painful, because sometimes, and I also I will do the little I'll rewrite things I've already written, which just for clarification.
Well, yes, but you didn't dump it. You still used it. Yeah. It's like when thoughts come to you, intuition comes up, it's happening for a reason. It's not just, some random thing. So use it. Thank you both, Mark and Sarah, for being here today. Great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.